I was raised in the forest, the eldest son of a lumberjack and an incredibly creative woodworking mother. Sawdust is in my bones. The first home I can really remember is a log cabin in Knox on Bozenkill Road, set just at the fringe of vast wilderness. I would explore my surroundings with wide-eyed awe, catching newts and salamanders, picking the tiniest wild strawberries and marveling at the world around me. The woods was my safe space, a space for adventure. Before my brother was born, my mom and I would sometimes accompany my father on trips to mountainous woodlots. They had made a little wooden bench for me that sat behind the log truck's shifting rod. Dad would work all day felling great oaks, maples, and pines and hauling them to the staging area while Mom and I would wander through the trees. There is something magical about the forest, all those browns and greens, great gray hunks of lichen and covered stones, and the occasional splash of color. A bright orange, a vivid purple, stark white, all these subtly hidden nooks and niches with mysterious organisms tucked away. Mushrooms. I have always been fascinated by these intriguing life forms. Their shapes, sizes, colors, and frequency of appearance made a strong impact on my developing mind. As I aged, I only grew more interested. Through my late teens and early 20s, I experimented with entheogenic, mind-altering mushrooms, wrote a multitude of mushroom poems, constantly drew mushrooms in notebooks during classes, and conceived of several stories involving mushrooms. Mushrooms have never strayed far from my conscious mind. And in my late 30s, when I met Amy Hood, the mycelium really started to take hold. Amy was also a huge mycophile. Having compiled thousands of mushroom pictures she had taken on hikes and forest forays, she has even taken her love and interest one step further to cultivation. By the time we met, Amy had been growing shiitake mushrooms and logs as a hobby in a forested plot not too far from the log cabin in Knox where I grew up. I immediately dove into assisting with her endeavor, working with my dad to cut ironwood and oak saplings twice a year and inoculating them with shiitake, oyster, ledoporus, and grifola. In 2019, we expanded our outdoor collection of logs to include a few stacks in East Bern. The mycelium has spread. Home will always be the Helderbergs for me, the crisp, clean mountain air, the burbling creeks, and the expansive swaths of forest. But I also now hang my hat in Troy. In 2013, when I moved to the other side of the river, I reconnected with a friend I had met in my younger days on the mountain, Ed Braley III. We had been loosely connected via mutual friends on social media until I put out a message to all my digital friends to help harvest and consume the abundance of figs growing in my new backyard. Ed showed up with an original piece of art that still hangs on my wall to exchange for figs, and our friendship grew from there. Our threads wound tighter together after Amy and I discovered Ed's mushroom love. We went on several foraging walks, talking about fungi in the forest, collecting edible plants and mushrooms, and just having a grand old time exploring the wilderness. Amy and I began to forage on our own after a few trips with Ed. We had been positively identifying fungi in the forest, but had never collected any for consumption. Ed gave us the confidence to consume what we already knew to be edible. During one foraging trip, Amy and I found a Hericinnum erinaceus, a lion's mane mushroom, and brought it home to make lion cakes. We shared a few with my upstairs neighbor, Ian Longton, and unwittingly started another strand of mycelium growing. Fast forward another year or so to April of 2020. Since 2008, I had been managing the Experimental Media Performing Arts Center on the RPI campus. With the COVID crisis putting a kibosh on all gatherings for the foreseeable future, I was furloughed. Taking this abrupt change as an opportunity, I decided that the various hyphae of mycelium had spread and it was time to fruit. Time to dedicate my life to introducing others to fungi and bringing tasty nutraceutical foods to my community. It was time to become a mushroom farmer. Once that block of substrate was put in the fruiting room and I began to really wrap my head around what it would take to make this career switch, I got to work. Encouraged by Amy, my brother Nathan, and my friend Jackie, we started working out the logistics and gathering a team. Since receiving those lion cakes we had made, Ian's interest and passion in mushrooms had been invigorated. Having worked in clean rooms and sterile environments in the past and being recently unemployed, we began to use our free time to experiment with transfer techniques and to build our culture library. We started buying necessary equipment, had virtual meetings, invited Ed to join in, and began growing mushrooms. It is amazing how much new knowledge can be absorbed when you really open your mind to it. I quickly realized that while I knew quite a bit about fungi, I had barely scratched the surface of the incredible breadth of information available. I consumed videos, books, research articles, websites, and Cornell Cooperative Extension training, and together we laid out a blueprint for what would become Collar City mushrooms. The incredible world of mushrooms is truly amazing. From minute little slime molds to vast, sprawling mycelial networks, the ways in which they manifest are varied and diverse. Yes, some are dangerous, but many of the mushroom bodies that humans have found to be safe to consume are functional adaptogens that not only provide healthy nutrition, they also boost the immune system and have been shown to counteract deadly cancers and illnesses. Today's scientists are working with fungi to create packaging materials, building materials, insecticides, medicines, and clothes. Some mushroom species have even been found to mycoremediate hazardous and environmentally damaging wastes, rendering them inert and biodegradable. There are so many ways the fungi kingdom can benefit our global existence. To wrap up my talk, I want to spend a few minutes going over the mushroom growing process. At Collar City Mushrooms, we begin with tiny pieces of mycelium growing on agar plates. Once the plate is fully colonized, we transfer the mycelium to grain. It takes a few weeks for the fungi to fully grow through the grain, and once it does, we transfer again, dividing the grain into bags of hardwood sawdust, soy pellets, and water. Those bags are then shelved for a few weeks. After the fruiting substrate has fully colonized, the bags are moved into our grow rooms. The environments in these rooms are carefully controlled and clean. Fresh air exchange, humidity, and full spectrum grow lights all contribute to providing the conditions necessary to fruit. In another week or so, mushrooms are harvested and ready to consume. It really is a straightforward process, and the key is in maintaining a sterile environment. A mushroom farmer's biggest challenge is preventing and combating contamination. I have found growing mushrooms to be extremely rewarding. It is tactile, active, and natural. It keeps me connected to the sawdust in my bones and to the local food supply system. I'm looking forward to growing my understanding of fungi and the ways they can help us heal the world around us. Thanks for tuning in. May the spores be with you.